this is the thing that I hope people understand, that every business has a brand. If you're not consciously building that brand, if you're not taking steps to create a strong visual identity, if you're not investing some time in sending good emails, if you're not following up with clients, then your brand is going to be very weak. The more exposure you have to potential customers, the more they get to like you. And it's why every business owner should look to create more and more touch points with every customer.
The following is brought to you by Thryv, the end-to-end client experience platform that helps you get the job, manage the job, and get credit.
Hello, this is Gordon Henry, and this is Winning on Main Street. Winning on Main Street is by and about small businesses and entrepreneurs. And this week, we're with Ross Kimbarovsky, CEO of Crowdspring, a company that provides design solutions for SMBs worldwide using an unusual crowdsourcing methodology. And we're going to hear all about that and how small businesses can fix their brands from Ross Kimbarovsky. Welcome, Ross.
Hey, Gordon, happy to be here talking with you and your listeners.
Yeah, great to have you, and happy 2021.
Likewise, same to you.
So let's jump into it, Ross. You have, I think, an interesting, I guess they call them origin stories these days. What was the origin of Crowdspring?
So for the first 13 years of my working life, I was a trial attorney, focusing on complex commercial and intellectual property litigation. But I've always been entrepreneurial. I was always thinking about starting businesses. And I actually started practicing law in '95 when the internet was commercialized. So I was working with lots of small businesses, startups. In 2006, I was leading the rebrand of my law firm's website. And like a lot of entrepreneurs who end up finding ideas that solve their problem, I ran headfirst into a problem. We did what normally people do. We put together our requirements. We sent them out to agencies who did law firm websites. We received their bids. We interviewed them, picked one, paid them a lot of money, waited 2 months, received the visual designs, and I hated them. They were horrible. And I was embarrassed and frustrated because people who conduct service businesses, attorneys are service business, people who have retail businesses, they don't really know how to create great designs unless they're a designer. And that's why we hire specialists. And so I hated what happened. I went back and I said, there's got to be a better way for small business owners like me to buy design services. And ultimately, research and testing led me down this path of turning the entire model upside down. Because the question we asked is, why do we have to pay tens of thousands of dollars or even hundreds of thousands of dollars for good design? Why do we have to pay in advance to see designs weeks or months later? So that turned into a lot of research and thinking, and ultimately it turned into crowdspring.com, which helps small business owners, entrepreneurs, agencies, and nonprofits with everything from custom logo design to web design to product design and even naming businesses. And our intuition was great design doesn't have to cost tens of thousands of dollars. Our project started at $299, including all fees. And we have a community of 220,000 freelancers around the world helping businesses with custom design in a very unique model.
Great. So our listeners are mainly small businesses, local businesses, service businesses in particular. And the question I want to ask you is, does creative and branding matter for a local business? You think of, John's Plumbing or Bill's Roof Repair. We're not talking about Coca-Cola. We're not talking about Toyota or, any of the major global brands. And we all get that they have to have a certain cachet. But for the local business with 5, 10, 15 employees going out to service people's houses, why does creative and branding matter?
So branding, your brand identity, your visual identity matters whether you're a single person plumber providing services or an electrical contractor who has 10 employees providing services, or a dental office, or Coca-Cola. Here's why it matters. Your brand identity is really about your credibility as an individual and a business. If you were a plumber and you walked into a customer's home in a torn t-shirt, in shorts, flip-flops, without a tool bag, and said to the customer, I'm ready, they would look at you and say, you don't look ready. You don't look like you're here to fix my plumbing problem. And so visual identity is very much like that. It's one of the most powerful ways that as a small business, as a solopreneur, as a business of 1 to 10 employees, or as a huge global conglomerate, you can differentiate from other people. Because here's the thing, visual design is important for a very simple reason. We process, as consumers, images 60,000 times faster than we process words. So if you think about, you wake up in the morning and you look around you, you see logos, you see brands. Even before you read things, you see them. If you see a person walking across the street carrying a coffee cup and the coffee cup looks like an emblem with green, you're going to assume it's Starbucks. You don't even know what it says. That's because there's an association. So the best thing that small business owners can do is create a strong visual identity that makes them look credible. Because like it or not, that's how people decide. They decide based on how you look. They decide based on how your logo and business cards look. If you drive a van, there's a difference between not having anything on your van versus having a little sign versus having a complete wrap that has your phone number and focuses on your business. All of that matters.
What is the biggest mistake that small businesses make when it comes to design and branding?
The biggest mistake is under-investing in good design when they start their business and when they try to grow their business. Here's the very simple truth. Good design does not have to be expensive, but a lot of small business owners, a lot of entrepreneurs think that they can get a free or cheap design and do okay. Now, let me say something that you're not going to hear from just about any agency. Good design doesn't fix bad service. Good design does not fix a bad product. Good design does not fix bad communications. You still have to be a great plumber, great electrician, great doctor. But when you underinvest in good design, and as I mentioned earlier, Crowdspring project started $299. So this isn't about $10,000 versus $50,000. This is about several $100s versus $50. When you underinvest in design, what happens is you end up with a visual identity based on templates, clip art, generic design. So your business looks like dozens of other businesses in your area. Everybody looks alike. Clients can't remember you, can't differentiate you. Imagine if you walked into a store and you wanted to buy cereal and every box looks the same. You wouldn't know which brand to buy. And if you bought a brand, when you came back, you wouldn't know which one to buy again. This is why it's so important for people to, in the very beginning, invest in affordable design that makes sense for them. Because the reality is when you get free or cheap design in the beginning, you end up paying more in the mid to long term because you struggle to grow the identity for your business. It's what big companies know. A huge part of the value of these huge companies worth trillions of dollars and hundreds of billions of dollars is their brand. It's the intangible things that make them so successful.
So how, since you got started during the internet era, how has design and branding changed with the growth of the internet? How has that changed? How has the internet changed what you do?
Well, first of all, the internet has made design more important because when you used to compete against somebody who was in your several block area, now you're competing against businesses that are miles away and tens of miles away. And if you're selling at retail or providing services that you can ship, you're competing globally. And so that has meant that more businesses are online. E-commerce, as you know, has been expanding significantly, and the pandemic has fueled that growth. So we, in the past 9 months, just in the US alone, have moved forward probably 6 to 10 years in terms of where we expect an e-commerce to be, which means there's more competition. There's more competition online. More businesses are trying to steal your clients, and they're doing so by investing in good visual design. So it forces people to be more particular about their services and products to stand out. It means you have to be conscious about building a brand. This is the thing that I hope people understand, that every business has a brand, and a brand is every touch point you have with the customers. It's how customers feel about you. Ultimately, every business has a brand. if you're not consciously building that brand, if you're not taking steps to create a strong visual identity, if you're not investing some time in sending good emails, if you're not following up with clients, then your brand is going to be very weak and confusing to clients, which will decrease the incentive for them to tell their friends about them. So when somebody's looking for a plumber, electrician, or a dentist or somebody else, they're not going to recommend you. They're going to recommend somebody else, or they'll just say, I don't really know anybody great. And so this is where you can change the direction of your business by saying, I'm going to take steps to make sure I have a unique logo. I want to make sure that I have a unique name that stands out that people like. I want to have a consistent visual presence. So my truck is going to have a visual design that's similar to what I have on my website. And my website will have a design that matches my logo. And if I'm going to walk into a customer's home and I want them to remember, I'm going to buy a $15 t-shirt that has my business's name on it, because I want to be always in front of the customer. I want them to remember me. There are lots of interesting principles of marketing and psychology, like mere exposure theory in psychology is a theory that says that the more exposure you have to potential customers, the more they get to like you. And it's why companies advertise so much and repeatedly, because one advertisement isn't enough. And it's why every business owner should look to create more and more touch points with every customer.
Yeah. Do you find that too many small business people just try to do this themselves? I once heard a little joke. He said, marketing is like sex. Everybody thinks they're an expert, but few actually are. Do too many small businesses think they're experts when they're not at creative and branding and design?
I found, so we talk to thousands of small businesses every year. And I find that most small business owners recognize they're not experts in their area. I think the problem is a little different. As I said earlier, most simply don't appreciate how important good design is. And so whether they do it themselves or get a template or get some clip art, the result is a weak brand. And when they struggle to build their companies, when they're doing everything right, but still unable to grow their business, a smart marketer will look at it and say, you've got a great product, you deliver a great service, you're always on time, your pricing is outstanding, but when people look at you, they just don't find you to be very credible. And so at the end of the day, whether they do it themselves or not, and certainly some do, or use free or cheap design, the end result is the same. They just struggle to create powerful brands. And what I want people to take away from this is that it used to be, and it's the reason I started Crowdspring, used to be that great design was very expensive and inaccessible. And it was frustrating for me and frustrating for business owners, but it doesn't have to be. We created this great guide to the cost of design that I'm happy to share. You could put in the show notes, which walks people through free, cheap, affordable, and expensive options for things like logo design and web design and business card design, and talks about what you get for each. And if you're going to talk to a freelancer or talk to an agency, the questions you should ask them and what you should expect to get from them in deliverables if they're going to charge you some money to do that work. People need to be informed about it. I think smart business owners know that a small investment helps them grow their business, and underinvestment is going to hold them back.
We're going to take a quick break right now to hear a word from our sponsor, and we're going to be back soon with a lot more from Ross Kimbarovsky.
What a friggin' mess the small business world is these days. I've always been a bit of a germ freak and a prepper, but I didn't actually think I would see an economic apocalypse in my lifetime. But we are now seeing a once in every 100-year event with the shutting down of the economy. But there is a way through. Now is not the time to close your eyes and wait for everything to return to normal. Now is the time actually to burn your boats, because it's never going back to what we thought was normal. Now is the time for small business owners to begin to pivot and reinvent their business for a post-corona economy. This is my fourth recession that I've weathered, so whatever you're going through, I've actually been there before. Let me know how I can help you reimagine your business and get through this very difficult time. Contact me at 773-837-8250 or email me at barry@moltz.com. Remember, I'm here for you.
We're back with Ross Kimbarovsky. Ross, you run an amazing worldwide business, Crowdspring, but the secret is you have a very small team. You told me, I think under 10 employees, actually. How do you do that?
So one choice we made the first time we had to hire people, we do two things, I guess. Let me back up. The first thing is we try to do every job ourselves first before we hire people, because we really try to understand what it's going to take when we hire a person to do it. So back when we started in 2008, we had to support our customers. And so customer support was not an optional. We made a conscious choice to have world-class customer support from the day we opened for business. I did all of the customer support for 6 months. So all of the tickets, all of the phone calls, chats. And I did that for two reasons. Number one, we were a small company. So as a founder, I had to help everywhere I could. But the fundamental reason was that I really needed to understand what it would take for a customer support agent to deal with customers. What skills would they need to have? What kind of demeanor would they need to have? The kinds of questions they would answer. And also I wanted to learn as a business owner, what pain were the customers feeling? And so we did each of these jobs first wherever we could. And when we hired, we tried to optimize and use software or change processes that gave us the ability to do more with less. And that's just in our DNA. So anytime we've had to think about hiring more people, the first choice we always make isn't let's just hire one or two more people. It's been asking the question, how can we do this better to reduce the work our existing team is already doing? And for 12 years, we've been able to successfully do that at every turn. So fewer than 10 people, we support a community of 220,000 plus designers, we have something like 70,000 clients from over 100 countries. So pretty big community. We handle thousands of tickets every month, lots of chats every day, lots of phone calls, but we do it efficiently and we use tools the right way to help us.
Yeah, super impressive. So without getting too complicated, I'm interested in hearing about your methodology and how you kind of keep this all going with such a small team. And particularly, you said something like 220,000 creative artists or designers. How did these jobs get parceled out or allocated out to this giant community of people around the world?
So when you come to us, we offer 33 categories of projects, from logo design to web design, naming businesses. We walk you through these dynamic question and answer forms, which we've honed over 12 years. And you pick your budget. You actually pick your own price. Most of these projects are 7 days. And once we have all the answers, we distribute it to all of our designers or namers. Now, we actually, for the last 5 years, have closed registration. We have so many people on the platform that it's hard for us to accept so many more. Number one, we qualify, we vet every single person that works on Crowdspring. So it's an arduous process and we vet them for every single subcategory. And once they get in, we actually do the same thing once or twice a year. So we distribute it to our community. And in most cases, whoever wants to work on a project does, because what we did with the business model from the very beginning was change it. Rather than hire a single designer, which you can do on Crowdspring, you can find a designer, we'll recommend our best, you can work privately. When you post your requirements, let's say for a new logo, for a new plumbing business, new electrical business, you are talking with a worldwide group of designers, and you're going to have dozens of designers participate in your project. And here's the difference. They're not going to send you bids and proposals because you've already set the price. They're going to send you actual designs for your new business. You can give them feedback, they'll iterate, you pick your favorite, and that designer produces all the final files. And so anybody who wants to can participate in most of these projects. You get to pick the design you love the best. You get a free legal contract, transferring full rights to the IP, intellectual property, to you. We take care of paying the designers. You get all the final files. We do have some projects where you might work with 5 designers. So for example, I mentioned logo, $299. For $899 for a logo, you can work with 5 of our best designers. And in that project, you're not going to work with dozens. You're going to work with 5, but they're the best. And you're going to pick one still, but all 5 get paid. So the difference is, in that case, all 5 get paid. One gets the award. The others get guaranteed tips, but your cost is $899. That's all in. And so that's a very popular package for people that are looking for the highest quality. But we've built price points for businesses of every size, because at the end of the day, we wanted to make sure that small businesses weren't left out. You know, huge companies, as you mentioned, they've got lots of money. They can hire agencies and pay millions or hundreds of thousands. Mid-sized businesses can pay tens of thousands and not miss a beat. But small businesses struggle to find a way to get affordable design at a price that fits their budget.
Fascinating. And in that giant audience or team, I guess, virtual team you have, 220,000 working for you. Do some of those people work for you exclusively, like that's all they do, or are many of these people juggling other jobs, other companies they do similar things for? I'm just curious about the model.
So it varies. I mean, it's a freelancing marketplace. So in that sense, nobody's captive to us. We encourage people to build their own books of businesses, to work elsewhere. Crowdspring is a tough place for a designer to get into because ultimately we set our standard very high because we're trying to deliver great results for clients. Most of them are applying their trade in other places.
Yeah.
Because we have created hopefully democratic and fair policies across the board. We respect intellectual property. That comes from my IP law background. We have fair and transparent policies. A lot of designers prefer to work with us, but at the end of the day, it's about work. If we can deliver lots of work, they'll do the work and they'll continue to do it. If we can't, they'll work wherever the work is.
So we're talking right now virtually over Zoom, and that's how most people are doing things these days, it seems. You're an expert at this. You told me your company is virtual. I guess you don't have an office. Maybe you did at one point, but don't anymore. How do you do that? You never see your colleagues in person, and I guess you never see your clients in person. It's all virtual, very, very COVID-like for a company that's been around for so many years.
So when we started out in 2008, we started with a distributed team. We did have an office, and we had an office actually until 2017, at which point there was no reason. We were all around the world. I was the only one coming into our office in Chicago. And I said, this doesn't make any sense. I'm perfectly happy working from home. And we've been working distributed for a decade at that point in time. It requires a different perspective. So COVID for us as a team in terms of remote was easy because we were already remote. We understood a long time ago that remote is different from office. And I think the mistake a lot of people make when they shift from office to remote is they think that the best way to be efficient is replicate what they did in the office on Zoom or in a remote context. And that's really the wrong approach. You don't want to replicate what you did. There are lots of problems working in the office. You want to reject the things that don't work and decrease efficiency, and embrace the things that do work and create lots of efficiency. So for example, we've always been culturally an asynchronous team in the sense that we don't have meetings day in, day out. We have one team meeting once a week to talk about our product roadmap. That's it. We do have conversations from time to time, but this is one-on-one conversations. This isn't 4 or 5 people. And if we have to meet about something, we do it asynchronously initially. So we use project management tools. Our favorite tool is Basecamp. And we have communications offline up until the point where we're ready to finally talk about something and decide it. So we're going to spend 80% of our time asynchronously in writing, reading, responding, and saucing out the ideas, and then have a quick conversation. And that really saves us a huge amount of time and lets us be efficient. This is the huge advantage small businesses have. If you're a large business, most of the time, most of the people, especially managers, are stuck in meetings day in, day out. They have maybe half an hour a day to do actual work. It's hard to build a business that way.
Yeah. We just have a couple of minutes left. I want to ask you one or two quick final questions here. What's next for Crowdspring? Where do you see yourselves in 18 months?
So we're looking at one of the frustrations over the past year and a half for us has been solving some of our internal problems. Marketing is a good example. Like every other small business, every one of your listeners, how do you market better? How do you do some things you need to do? So, Thryv does a great job solving some of these problems, right? Small businesses don't have the time to do every single thing. So they need to find ways to automate some of the tasks that they do. So we've run nurture campaigns, for example, and these are campaigns, series of emails to clients and prospects about our products and educational campaigns. And we've been really frustrated with some of the products out there. So we're currently looking at the possibility of spinning out some really good tools that we've built internally that solve this problem for us in a nice way. And so we're gonna see if we can help more businesses, not just through design, but through things like marketing.
Interesting. So last question before we go, let's quickly turn to Ross Kimbarovsky, the person. You have an interesting background yourself. I think you were born overseas, moved to the United States as a young man. Tell us a little bit about how you grew up and got into this business.
Sure. So I was born in Kiev, Ukraine. and emigrated with my family, younger brother, my parents in 1979, straight to Chicago, and we've been here since. And so I was not really very entrepreneurial until probably law school. I was always a hard worker. I enjoyed working. So in high school and college, I usually had 2 to 3 jobs, lots of fun things. And in college, I was fortunate to work with a firm that was involved with technology transfer, selling businesses and intellectual property to all sorts of businesses overseas. And so I did a lot of fun work. But in law school, I started getting entrepreneurial. I started a school's paper. I started a number of groups. And when I started my law practice in 95, I started a number of practices as the internet started becoming commercialized. And so I had been looking for opportunities to start a business. Every one of your listeners knows there's an upside and a downside to running a business. You're your own boss. You make your decisions, but it's not easy. You always think about your business. Your brain doesn't turn off. It's like a roller coaster. There are great days and there are really bad days. And in 2020, really bad years for most business owners. But anyway, I always wanted to start a business, and in the late 1990s, I came close. But the kinds of businesses people were starting then, give away a free PC and make it up on advertising were silly businesses, and I didn't have any ideas. And so, as I mentioned, just like most entrepreneurs that start a business, I ran into a problem, and in order to solve my own problem, I stumbled on something that I thought could help others.
Yeah, brilliant. Well, Ross, it's been great talking to you, and Crowdspring is a fantastic company. I think many listeners will have an interest in taking advantage of the services you offer. So thanks for your time today and for sharing your story.
Thanks so much, Gordon. Enjoyed it.
And thank you out there for listening. If you liked what you heard, give us a 5-star review and tell a friend or colleague about Winning on Main Street. Until next time, this is Gordon Henry signing off.